Ladies and gentlemen, let me share something important about silence. There is a kind of silence that speaks louder than words, a kind of quiet that can shake the ground beneath the feet of those who once believed they controlled the sound level of your life. That silence is what happens when you choose no contact with a narcissist, and yes, they feel it deeply. Do not misunderstand this. When you cut the connection, they do not sit back calmly and accept it. No, they lean forward and wait. A narcissist carries hope as well, but not hope built on love or honesty. Their hope is rooted in manipulation and ego. When you go no contact with a narcissist, the very first thing they hope is that you will be the one who breaks. They do not see it as a small chance. They expect it to happen. In their world, the game never truly ends. For them, no contact is not a conclusion. It is a pause, a challenge, a temporary delay in their ongoing act. Deep inside, they believe you will return. Not because you miss them, not because the love was genuine, but because they assume they still control your thoughts. A narcissist survives on control, not only during the relationship, but long after it is finished. They want to remain a presence in your mind, a shadow behind your decisions. So when you become silent, they do not respect it. They study it closely. They analyze it carefully. They tell themselves things like, she is just angry right now. He is only emotional. They will reach out soon. Just give it time. They see your silence as something temporary because in their distorted thinking, you still revolve around them. You are not separate in their mind, only quiet. And they will test that belief. They may post something vague on social media, something they know you might notice, a song lyric, an old memory, a photo from a shared moment. Nothing direct, just enough to trigger your thoughts. They may not contact you right away, but they will disturb the water and wait to see if you react. The narcissist does not want to be the first to reach out because that would mean risk and vulnerability. Instead, they arrange things so that you make the first move. If you do, they feel they have won. One message, one simple "how have you been" is enough for them to feel the power move back into their hands. It was never about love. It has always been about control, validation, and the feeling that they still matter in your life. They want to believe your silence is an act, not a firm choice, that you are waiting for them to return, that you are still emotionally open, still connected to the story they created. And if you have broken no contact before, even one time, they will cling to that memory. They will treat it like proof that you will do it again. No matter how strong you sound, they believe the silence will eventually crack. Narcissists live by the idea that people are possessions, tools, extensions of their own ego. So when you take your voice back and go no contact, they see it as a short rebellion, not a final stand. They do not believe you can maintain it. They do not believe you have the strength to walk away forever. That is why they hope. That is why they wait and prepare. They imagine you staring at your phone. They rely on your loneliness. They gamble on your empathy, the same empathy they used against you before. They may even send flying monkeys, mutual friends, family members, anyone who can check on you for them or pass along small messages. They have been asking about you. They miss you. Maybe you should talk to them. All of it is part of the plan, because the moment you respond, the moment you show you are still thinking about them, it confirms that their hold has not fully disappeared. That is all they need. Confirmation. Evidence that they still occupy space in your mind. Proof that the spell is not completely broken. In the end, what a narcissist fears more than silence is indifference, true emotional detachment. That is why when you go no contact, they hope you will be the first to give in. Because if you do not, it means they never had the control they believed they had. When you go no contact with a narcissist, they hope you are suffering. They need to believe your silence comes from pain, not strength. It feeds their ego to imagine you miserable without them, not just missing them, but longing for them. They do not imagine you healing, growing, or finding peace. That would mean you discovered power beyond them, and that idea is unacceptable in their reality. Instead, they create a picture where your days are filled with regret, isolation, and longing. It comforts them to think they were the center of your world, the one person you could not live without. This is not a passive wish. They need to believe you are hurting because it supports their false sense of importance. To a narcissist, your pain is proof of their impact. It is the mark they want to leave on your life. Emotional confusion, self-doubt, an empty space where they once stood. If they can convince themselves that you are broken without them, it restores their feeling of superiority. It gives them a dark satisfaction knowing that even in absence, they still control your emotions. They imagine your silence as torture. They picture you crying at night, unable to sleep, replaying memories, wondering why you were never enough. They believe you are checking their social media from secret accounts, watching their updates, tracking their every move. They want to believe that while they appear to move on, you are stuck in place, emotionally frozen. This belief makes them feel powerful. It allows them to think they still have control even when you have cut the tie. If they do not hear from you, they do not see it as closure. They tell themselves you are pretending to be strong, playing a game, waiting for them to reach out. They do not recognize your peace. They imagine it as fake, forced, and act. Because if your silence is real and healthy, it means they no longer matter. That truth is too heavy for their ego. So they choose a story that protects their illusion of power. They also project their own emotions onto you. Narcissists often feel intense pain when they feel abandoned, so they assume you must feel the same way. They ignore the fact that your decision for no contact was not sudden. It came after pain, deep thought, and clarity. They refuse to see the months or years of emotional damage that pushed you to walk away. In their mind, your choice was impulsive, and therefore they assume your emotions must be unstable. They hope you regret it. They hope you are questioning yourself. They hope you are close to falling apart. Even if you are doing well, they will not accept it. You can share smiling pictures, progress, signs of growth, and they will still tell themselves it is all fake, that you are acting for their attention. Because if you are truly fine without them, it means they were never as necessary as they believed. Narcissists need to feel irreplaceable. Your healing threatens that belief. Your silence, when it comes from peace, is louder than any argument you could ever have. Still, they ignore that truth and cling to the fantasy that you are secretly broken. They may tell mutual friends that you are struggling. They might suggest you are not doing well, that you are bitter, that you will come back eventually. Facts do not matter to them. What matters is feeding their need to be missed. In their mind, your pain equals their power. Your healing is the one reality they cannot face. When you go no contact with a narcissist, they hope you are still watching them. They want to believe that even in silence, you are still paying attention, that you are following their life, checking their stories, searching for meaning in every post. They picture you as a hidden observer in the audience of their life, unable to look away. This imagined attention keeps their sense of importance alive. To a narcissist, being watched means being wanted. It means they still matter. It means control has not been lost. They will carefully shape their image, not just for the world, but specifically for you, believing that somewhere, somehow, you are still looking. They post pictures designed to trigger jealousy. Sometimes it's a new partner, a vacation, or a sudden display of happiness they never showed when you were around. It's not real living. They're performing. Every action assumes you're paying attention. It's their way of saying, look at what you're missing. Even if inside they feel miserable, the appearance matters more than the reality. They want to dominate your emotional world. Even after you've walked away, in their mind, your attention is proof you're still tied to them. They don't need a reply, a call, or a message. They only need to believe you're looking, that you're still aware of them, even silently. This is their way of staying linked to your energy without committing to a real relationship. The illusion that you're still watching feeds their sense of relevance. They see it as evidence that their presence lingers, that their influence hasn't faded. This belief justifies their actions. If they think you're observing, it pushes them to perform even more. They act unbothered, successful, or enlightened, not because they've changed, but because the mask seems enough. They want you to doubt your choice, wondering, did I give up too soon? Every post, every smile, every carefully curated peek into their world is meant to make you question yourself. Even if you've truly moved on, they assume you haven't. Narcissists don't handle loss like healthy people. They don't seek closure. They seek an audience. They may not reach out directly, but they expect your emotional investment. Just as they hope you're watching them, they are often watching you too. They look for cracks in your happiness, signs that you're still vulnerable. They might not interact, but they monitor your stories, read your posts, and interpret silence as obsession. Projection is a favorite tool. They build stories around imagined attention. They might tell others, they're still watching me, still obsessed, even without proof, because attention is all that matters. Love, hate, curiosity, anything works as long as they remain the focus. They don't see you as an independent person. They see a mirror, and they constantly check that reflection, needing proof they exist in your life, even from the sidelines. When you go no contact, they don't only want you hurting, they want you looking. They want to become your ghost, not from regret, but from ego. They aim to occupy your mind, thinking your silence is suspense, not strength. In their reality, you haven't moved on. You're just observing, waiting, wishing. That thought, true or not, validates them. When you cut contact, they try to provoke guilt or doubt. Rejection isn't easy for them, so instead of respecting boundaries, they manipulate from afar. Guilt is their weapon of choice, especially against kind, empathetic people, the very type they often target. They don't want you to move on with peace. They want you second-guessing, wondering, was I too harsh? Did I overreact? Were they really that bad? That inner turmoil gives them control. Even in silence, they may tell others their side of the story, portraying themselves as hurt, abandoned, or misunderstood. They position themselves as victims of your coldness or decision to walk away. These are not random lies. They're carefully constructed stories meant to spread. They want these tales to reach you indirectly, through friends, family, or social media. Hearing they're struggling is meant to spark guilt, not concern, because guilt weakens your resolve. They exploit your empathy against you. If you once cared about them, they count on that still being true. They may suggest they've changed, hinting now is the time for reconciliation. But this change is often shallow, a mask hiding the same manipulation. They don't need you to believe forever, just long enough to reopen the door. Guilt is their key. They also plant subtle seeds of doubt. Indirect messages, online quotes, cryptic hints, or reminders of the past are designed to make you romanticize the relationship. Narcissists rewrite history with charm and selective memory, making you question your perception. They hope you forget manipulation and pain, focusing only on illusion and fleeting moments that felt real. The longer you stay away, the clearer reality becomes. That's why they act fast, subtly undermining your certainty. Guilt and doubt whisper, they don't shout. They twist thoughts at night, make you scroll old pictures, question if you overreacted. That's the sweet spot. Hate or anger is still engagement, but questioning your strength is their real opportunity. They project their fear of abandonment onto you. They want you to feel remorse for walking away, thinking you gave up too soon or could have fixed things. But it's all smoke and mirrors. They don't seek resolution. They crave reaction. The more stirred you are emotionally, the easier it is for them to manipulate boundaries. The guilt they aim for isn't love, it's control. If they can induce guilt, they don't need to apologize. If they make you doubt yourself, change is unnecessary. If you reach out, they win. Not because you miss them, but because they bent your conscience back into submission. No contact is a test. They hope you'll seek closure from them. That internal yearning is what they rely on. Narcissists leave confusion deliberately. Half-truths, abrupt disappearances, unfinished arguments, or unpredictable behavior. These tactics ensure unanswered questions and emotional disorientation, making you seek sense from them, not closure. To a narcissist, closure is a hook dangling just out of reach, drawing you closer. They want you circling, replaying conversations, analyzing signals, trying to determine truth versus manipulation. Leaving you with a heavy heart and confusion is a victory. They keep you emotionally invested. For them, the game is leverage, not resolution. They might offer just enough truth, a vague text like, "we should talk," to ignite hope, knowing humans crave narrative closure. It's part of how we come to terms with pain, but narcissists aren't looking for peace. They want control. They give vague replies or partial apologies, not to fix the harm, but to stay in charge. They want you to keep needing something from them, an answer, an explanation, an apology, because needing them means vulnerability. The closure you hope for, they never truly plan to give, not completely. Because once they give it, you can genuinely move forward. And once you move forward, they lose power. So instead, they leave the door slightly open. They hope you'll come back. They hope you'll return with questions. Why did you change? Did you ever really care? Was any of it genuine? Every question you ask strengthens their importance in your world. Every second you spend thinking about the past recharges their sense of superiority. They aren't aiming to resolve your pain. They want to stretch it out just enough to keep you emotionally connected. They want you to believe that only they have the answers, that your healing depends on their willingness. And when you start believing that, you give them power all over again because now they control when or if you find peace. It's a tactic of manipulation disguised as a conversation. They might seem humble, thoughtful, or even kind for a moment, but it's rarely authentic. Their idea of closure often comes with strings, gaslighting, or emotional traps. "I'm sorry you feel that way. I never meant to hurt you, but you weren't easy to love either." They twist closure into confusion, leaving you feeling worse than before. What they want is for your silence to be temporary, believing your discomfort will pull you back to them, seeking the emotional threads they left intentionally. They rely on your empathy, your desire to make sense of things. But clarity is the last thing they want you to have, because clarity frees you. True closure means seeing them without illusion. And once you see the truth, once you stop needing answers from the one who caused the pain, their hold is gone. That's the power they fear most. When you go no contact with a narcissist, they hope you'll eventually break the silence first. That's their twisted goal. Not necessarily a dramatic return, but a small crack in the wall you built. One text, one call, one slip. In that instant, they regain control. Silence threatens their authority, and your resistance frustrates them. They don't like it when people leave without looking back. It challenges their belief that they're unforgettable, irresistible, permanently influential. So even if they appear calm, underneath they're watching, waiting for the moment you make the first move. Narcissists aren't built to respect boundaries. They see them not as lines to be honored, but as hurdles to cross. When you go no contact, they don't see it as a healthy step. They see it as a challenge, even an insult. It wounds their ego to think they no longer have your attention. Access to you is everything. It's never about love or connection. It's about control, validation, and dominance. So they lie in wait, imagining when you might give in. Whether it's in a week, a month, or a year, they count on that moment of weakness. They don't need a grand gesture. They'll take the tiniest crack, a like on a post, a birthday message, a vague comment. To you, it may feel small, maybe polite, but to them, it proves you haven't let go. It shows their grip is still alive, even if barely. That's why they test your silence subtly, sending bait through random messages, fake emergencies, or passive posts meant to provoke a reaction. If you respond even once, they feel triumphant. Silence isn't absence, it's power. It forces them to face themselves, which they cannot handle. Instead of examining their flaws, they fantasize about your eventual return. Every day of your quiet is another step closer to their imagined victory. They see no contact not as strength, but as a challenge they can eventually undo. And because they think your strength is an act, they wait strategically. They may not reach out immediately, wanting to see how long you'll last. If time passes and you still haven't contacted them, they may grow restless. Then they start testing your resolve. Maybe they appear through mutual friends or send a neutral message disguised as concern. They want to know if you'll respond, even politely. Their goal isn't reconciliation, it's reassurance. They want proof they still matter. They want to see if you can still be emotionally stirred. Even the slightest reaction feeds their ego. That reply becomes fuel for their delusion that you're not over them, that you can't resist forever. They won't interpret your silence as peace or closure. They twist it into a temporary phase they can eventually undo. That's why they wait for signs of weakness. They believe the longer they stay on your mind, the more likely you'll eventually reach out. Not because they miss you, not because they're sorry, but because they need to reclaim control. To them, silence isn't an end, it's a pause they expect you'll break, giving them back the power you claimed when you walked away. Now you see, when you go no contact with a narcissist, they don't hear silence. They hear defiance. They hear strength. They hear truth. And that's exactly what terrifies them. They hope you're still watching, still doubting, still hurting, still seeking answers, still vulnerable enough to break the silence. But every hope they hold is about control, not care. It's never about love. It's leverage. Your silence, though, is not weakness. It's your healing. It's your freedom. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need closure from the one who hurt you. You don't owe a response, a reaction, or a return. What you owe yourself is peace. When you stay no contact, you don't just walk away from a narcissist. You walk back to your own power.